The Superscope Storyteller presents Alice's Adventures Through the Looking Glass.
The Land of the Red Queen. It was one of those cold and windy stay-inside days. Alice was curled up in the corner of a big armchair before the warm, glowing fireplace. She was half asleep, and daydreams danced through her head. The yarn she had been gathering lay in a neat ball on the floor. Alice's little kitten slowly crept up to it, pretending the round thing was a fat mouse. Then she pounced on it, and after a terrific battle, unraveled the entire ball. The noise soon awakened Alice.
Oh, no! Stop it, Kitty. You really should have better manners. I'm afraid I'll have to punish you for this, and so you shall have a kiss. Since we must stay inside today, let's see if we can find something to do.
Alice looked around the room and saw the chess game. It was one of her favorites because all of the pieces had names. There were the king and queen, the bishops in their hats, horses' heads called knights, castles called castles, naturally, and lots of funny little round-headed soldiers called pawns. All were sitting on their little checkerboard squares. Alice smiled at the kitten.
Let's pretend that you are the Red Queen. I believe if you sat up and folded your arms, you'd look exactly like her. Now try it. No, you're doing it all wrong. Here, I'll put you in front of the looking glass so you can practice.
Alice held the kitten in front of the huge mirror over the fireplace. But Kitty did not seem to be interested in queenhood and began swatting at her reflection. By this time, Alice was losing patience.
Now, Kitty, if you don't stop being so playful, I'll put you right through the mirror into the room on the other side. How would you like to live in a looking-glass house? It must be beautiful on the other side. Let's pretend there's a way of getting in. We'll make believe the glass is so soft that we can walk right through. Why, it's turning into mist.
Sure enough, the glass was beginning to melt away. After setting the kitten down, Alice climbed on the chair next to the fireplace and lifted herself onto the mantel. First, she stuck her arm through, then the rest of her body, and jumped to the floor of the other room. Alice quickly glanced around the room and noticed that it was like the one she had just left, but not as tidy. There was a warm blaze in the fireplace, and next to it a chess game on a table. But the pieces were all scattered around the floor. Several of them were in the hearth among the cinders. As she studied them, the pieces suddenly came to life and began to move. Alice was very surprised.
Oh, my. Just look at them walking around together. Why, here's the Red King and Queen. And there's the White King and Queen. Goodness, I hope I didn't frighten them. Of course not. They didn't even hear me. They didn't see me either. Why, I'm invisible.
Alice turned around just when one of the white pawns, who was still on the board, fell over and began kicking and screaming. This greatly upset the White Queen.
My child! My child!
She ran to the table, knocking the king head over heels.
My precious Lily! My imperial kitten!
As the queen tried to climb up the table leg, the king rolled around in the ashes where he had fallen.
Imperial fiddlesticks! Just look at me. I'm covered with dirt from head to foot.
Alice noticed the queen, who was still trying to climb up to her poor little Lily. So she reached down and quickly lifted the queen to the top of the table. The idea of being swept up so fast shocked the queen, and she called out to the king.
Watch out for the volcano!
What volcano?
The one that blew me up here.
Alice looked at the king, who was still sitting among the cinders, and decided that he should be alongside the queen. so she scooped him up as well. After seeing how filthy he was, she gently dusted him off and couldn't help laughing at his frightened little face. She shook so hard that she accidentally dropped him, and he fell flat on his behind. He sat up unhurt, but the experience had scared him so that he fainted dead away. Alice went to find some water to revive him. When she returned, she found that the king had recovered and was talking to the queen.
My dear, I was so frightened that I turned cold to the very ends of my whiskers.
No, you didn't. You don't have any whiskers.
I don't? Oh, yes. Well, anyway, I shall never forget how horrified I was.
Of course you will. You forget everything.
Then I must make
Alice suddenly realized it was getting late, and there was much more to see.
I think I'll look at the garden first.
She was out of the room in a moment and to the stairs. Then she put her fingertips on the handrail and magically floated down. After drifting through the hall, she went straight out the door and landed in the garden. It was so beautiful that she began to explore it.
I believe I'd see the garden better if I could get to the top of that hill over there.
Alice ran up one path and down another, but no matter how hard she tried, she could not find the right trail to the hill.
Oh dear, what can I do? If only these flowers could talk and tell me the way.
Where do you want to go?
Alice could not believe her ears. The flowers had come to life.
Why, you're a flower and you can talk.
Of course we can. Just like trees can bark.
The flower couldn't help laughing at his own joke. Soon, the others joined in and began teasing Alice.
What a silly little girl.
Look how bushy her head is.
She's an ugly color.
She's no color. I think she's a weed.
Alice did not like to be teased and tried to cover her ears, but she could still hear their laughter. Finally, she could take no more.
If you don't be quiet, I'm going to pick every one of you.
This frightened the flowers so that Alice soon had their full attention.
There, that's better. Now, would one of you please tell me if I'm the only person in this garden?
No, not really. There is one other. Say, here she comes now.
Alice looked up the path and was surprised to see the same red queen she'd seen earlier. At that time, she was as small as the White Queen, but now she was as big as Alice. The queen walked up to her and frowned.
Where did you come from? And where are you going?
I think I've lost my way.
What do you mean, your way? All the ways around here belong to me.
Well, you see...
Curtsy while you're thinking of something to say, and open your mouth wider when you talk.
Yes, Your Majesty.
That's better. Now, explain yourself.
Alice told the queen that she was trying to reach the top of the hill, and so the queen offered to take her there. When they arrived, Alice could not believe what she saw.
Why, the whole countryside looks like a giant chess game.
You're absolutely correct. Everyone in this land is part of the game, and you can be a player too. You will start off as a pawn and go from square to square. When you reach the last square, you'll be a queen, like me.
With that, the queen leaped into the air, and as she flew in the direction of the first square, she called back to Alice.
Then everything will be parties and fun and dancing. Goodbye!
Soon she disappeared into the valley. Alice was so excited about becoming a queen that she reached down the hill. Finally, she came to a stream and decided to jump across. She leaped as high as she could, and when she landed, Alice found herself riding on a railroad train. She was sitting with some very strange passengers. A beetle, a goat, and a man all dressed in white paper. Then she heard a tiny voice in her ear.
Get ready for the train to jump across the river.
Before Alice could answer, the train bolted into the air. And the next thing she knew, she was sitting under a tree. A large gnat hovered over Alice, fanning her with its wings. She was surprised when it spoke to her.
I was the voice in your ear. Do you like insects?
Not very much.
We have some nice ones here. There's a bread and butterfly over there. And here comes a rocking horsefly. Aren't they beautiful? You may stay and play with them if you wish.
No, they scare me.
Alice ran as fast as she could toward a thickly wooded area, and the gnat called after her.
Don't go in the swamp. You'll forget everything you know.
But she did not listen and kept running. Before long, she was inside the marsh, and a strange feeling came over her.
This is terrible. I can't remember a thing. I don't even know my name.
Alice continued on for some time, and soon came to a baby deer.
You're lost, aren't you?
Yes, and I'm very frightened.
Come with me then, and we'll be friends. By the way, what do you call yourself?
I don't know. What about you?
I think I've forgotten as well. Let's stay on this trail and maybe we'll find out.
So Alice put her arms lovingly around the little fawn's neck, and together they made their way through the dreary paths of the bog. Suddenly, they could see light.
Look, we've come to the edge of the swamp. We made it. Oh, you dear little animal.
You just reminded me of what I am, a deer. And you're a human child.
The fawn suddenly shook itself free from Alice's hold. Without stopping to look back, it quickly ran away. Along with their memories, they had also regained their natural fears. And to the fawn, the most dreaded enemy of all forest creatures, the human, was safely behind. Alice was sad to be alone once again. She wondered if she should return to the looking-glass house and jump back through the mirror into her safe, warm home. Then she recalled the promise the Red Queen had made to her, that she could someday be a queen herself. She now realized that there was only one direction in which to go. Alice looked down the path and saw a sign that read, "To the next square." She knew that there would be many more squares to cross before reaching her goal. And as she followed the trail, Alice was happy to be bound for more curious in Looking Glass Land.